Okay, so this woman went close to me, very silenced, with a face that wishes something. She started by rubbing her head in my face. At the same time she moved and I was feeling her body glued to mine. The skin was white like the blondes and she had freckles in her arms. I didn't notice any perfume in her skin or the hair, or else other than her normal body feminine smell. The door closed again. I was alone with that woman that was kissing me and making me understand clearly what she wished. I started to become aroused. Then it may sound unbelievable the situation that I was finding myself. I think it should have been a side effect of the liquid that they rubbed in my body. They did it on purpose. From what I know, I was sexually aroused in an uncontrollably way that I never happened to me before. I ended up forgetting and responded to her cuddles of that woman. Finally, she was tired and started breathing more faster. I was still very hot, but she was now refusing, trying to avoid me, trying to run away from me to see if we would stop. When I understood her intention, I calmed down. That was what they wanted. They wanted a good um, sample to increase their stock. At the end, it was that I was furious, but I resolved. I thought not to think much about it. What what mattered was that I had a good time. Other than other than all, I wouldn't exchange our women for her. I like a woman that I can talk, that I can understand. In this case, it didn't happen. Other than that, the sounds that sometimes were coming from her mouth ruined everything, giving me the sensation that I was with an animal. The other thing that I observed is that she never kissed me. Sometimes she would open her mouth like she would kiss me, but that gesture would end up with a little bite on the cheek, which would demonstrate that it wasn't a kiss. The other aspect that I can note is that her hair under her arms and the rest of her body were red, almost like blood color. A little while after we got separated, the door opened and there was another of the men that was calling the woman. This woman, before leaving, turned to me and showed me her her womb. She pointed the finger in my direction, having then pointed it to the sky. All of this accompanied by a smile or something similar. I interpreted her gesture as being an advertence that she would come back and would take me to live with her. Anyways, because of that, I'm still today afraid that they will come back and grab me. I am lost. In no way I want to leave my family and leave my country. This gesture that Villas Boas described was probably the main cause of fear that he felt on the October of 1957, fear of being taken by an extraterrestrial race unknown. Above all, this explanation is not logical, as we try to demonstrate. The woman meant to say, I'm going to have a child that is mine and yours out there in another planet. Antonio recognized that this explanation was more plausible than his. Afterwards, the man got in with his clothes on his arms. He gave a gesture that he would get dressed, and I obeyed in silence. Everything was in the pockets except for my Homero lighter. I don't know if they kept it or if I lost it during the struggle. I didn't talk about the matter. We left and I got in the bigger room. Three of the men of the crew were sitting on the turning benches and were talking. They, they weren't talking, they were um, howling like a wolf between them. The one that was accompanying me joined them, leaving me near the table where that I talked before. Now I was calmer. Then I knew that they wouldn't harm me. Before they were talking, meanwhile they were talking. I tried to observe everything and fix in my memory for details. The I don't I cannot remember this damn thing, guys. The cupboards, the walls, the uniforms, etc. So when I say I'm talking about the mobiles, not the mobiles, the where you store stuff, cupboards and stuff like that. Um, at a certain time, I noticed that on top of the table near the men, there was a species of a box, a square box with a top which was made of glass, protecting a kind of a little device, like like one of those old clocks, but it had a pointy nail with a black sign on the 6 o'clock times. There were points similar to the locals corresponding to 3 and 9 o'clock. On the other side, instead of the midday, there were four signs, small signs, disposed in a line next to each other. I don't know the meaning of all of this, but that was what I saw. Firstly, I thought this instrument was a sort of a clock because one of the men was checking it once in a while, but it couldn't be because I looked there for a while and I never seen the needle changing place. Then I thought of grabbing that object because I needed some sort of proof of my adventure. If I could grab it in that box, my problem would be solved. Then it could be possible that if they saw my interests, they would give me the box. I got close very slowly, even closer, like the men weren't watching me. I grabbed it suddenly with two hands and I raised it. It was heavy, maybe more than 2 kilos. But I didn't have time to examine it because, like a thunder, one of the men jumped and kind of pushed me and took it out of the hands. Furious, putting it back on its place. I even went back to the wall that I felt behind my back. Then I stood still and I got to the conclusion that they were treating me well and if I didn't behave badly. I tried scraping the wall with my nails to see if I could take a little bit of that shiny metal, but my nails would slide without even attacking the matter. The metal was very hard and I couldn't get anything. I never saw the woman, dressed or naked, after she left the other compartment, but I found out where she was. At the end of the room where we were now, there was another door where I, I didn't pass. It was semi opened, and once in a while I heard someone coming and going. It could only be her because all of the other men were with me in their strange equipment. I could imagine that that room corresponded to the cabin of command where the pilot should be, but I could never verify. Finally, one of the men stood up and made me the signal to accompany him. The other men continued sitting down. They were still sitting down. Um, Without looking at me, we went to another compartment, to another camera, a little small place at the entrance of the ship. Then the door was open and the ladder was rolled out. However, we didn't go down the ladder. My partner made me the signal to accompany him to a platform that was extending by each side of the door. This platform was not very large. It, it there you could only walk one person that surrounded the whole ship in all of its surface. We started on the front part. The first thing that I saw was a big salience of a square metal fixed to the device, and this extended to the exterior. There was also something similar on the other side. Those parts weren't small. I could almost swear that they were wings. I think that by their uh, shape, they could serve as to raise or lower down the machine. But when it was late, the device uh, I lift off, and I couldn't see them doing any movement. Afterwards, the man showed me in front the three arms Afterwards, the man showed me through the front the three metallic arms that I had already seen, solidly, um, kind of. Um they were kind of in a pattern like swords hitting the ground. There were two arms exterior on the lateral parts of the machine, and on the center, perfectly to the middle of the front of the device. They, they were all the same size. They were large on the base and they would thin out on the extremities. The position of the three was horizontal. I didn't know if they were made of the same metal of the ship because they were emitting a slightly red phosphorescence, like glowing, glowing iron when it's burning. Um, However, I didn't feel any heat. A little bit above the base, where they were fixed to the ship, there was a series of red lights. The two lateral lights were round and smaller. The front light was huge, very round, like a projector on the front part of the machine that I described. Around the dome part of the ship, a little bit above the platform, above the one that they project the red light, there was a small quantity of lamps, square lamps, apparently similar to the ones of the interior of the machine. Let me just check. Okay, 2 pages left, guys. Maybe half an hour. In front of the platform, you couldn't go round because it finished next to um, a glass plaque that would extend to the sides, that looked to be solidly fixed to the walls of the ship. Maybe it served like a porthole because there were no windows on any of those sides. It's an hypothesis difficult to accept because the glass looked like it was very thin. I think that the arms on the front would produce the energy necessary for the movement of the machine because when it moved, they increased extraordinary the light being superior to the lights of the projectors. After we seen the front part, we go back to the backwards to the rear part. It was more luminous than the front. But before that, we stopped for a little moment where the man pointed his finger upwards, where a huge dome disc would turn slowly. It was illuminated by a light, a greenish light that I didn't know where it came from. Its rotation was accompanied by a noise, by a very strong, deafening noise, like of a quantity of small holes. So, like, the noise was accompanied with small little holes. I cannot understand this. Wait a second. Okay, I don't understand what he means by this. So he thought there were some holes. Um, that was the holes, the rotation passing through the little holes underneath would cause this noise, but he didn't see any holes. Therefore, he's just doing a sort of a comparison. Later on, when the device lift off, the dome was rotating, the rotative dome increased in such a velocity that it became invisible, and he could only see the lights that had turned from a reddish, glowing reddish, with an intensity superior to all of the other lights. At this time, the sound even increased at the same time as the dome was increasing the velocity. Therefore, you could see a relationship between both, uh, being similar to the working of a motor. I didn't understand the reason why of these changes of the lights, nor understand what was the finality of this luminous disk that was turning constantly. The certain thing that is that it had a certain function. Also, is that it existed. Um, it looks to me that there was a small red light on the center of the dome, but I'm not sure. So let's go to the rear part of the machine. We have to pass once again the front door, and we walked along the passerelle that curved going backwards, precisely on the posterior part that would be um, situated the I think he means the motor of an airplane. I don't know what he means by this word. There was a metal piece, rectangular, um, placed vertically, that was going from the front to the back of the platform. It was very short, and it was about the height of my knee. I I passed over very easily over it to go to the other side. Then I came back. At that time, I noticed that the um, the nailings to the floor of the platform, there were two red lights, large and thick, um, positioned at each side of this platform. They were similar to the lights of an airplane, but they weren't intermittent. They were constant. I think that the metal plaque in question should be of a species like on a boat, that wheel, not the wheel, that thing that changes the direction underneath the boat. Um, he thought it served to change direction of the machine. Either way, I saw this piece dislocate from one side at the moment at that the machine still stopped floating in the air. Then, when it took off, it changed brusquely of its direction before going very quickly in one direction. After I seen the back part of the device, we went back to the door. My guide showed me the ladder, the metallic ladder, and made me a signal that I would go down. I obeyed, and once on land, I looked up. He was still there. Then he pointed at him, and then he pointed to the ground, and finally to the sky, going south. He made me the sign that I would go a little bit backwards, and then he disappeared on the interior. The ladder started to reduce on on its size. The stairs were aligning one over the other, forming a pile of luminous rays. When it hit the top part, the door that was open, making um, the door that was open also started to raise. Once that it adjusted the wall, becoming invisible. Okay, so guys, this is the photo of the UFO. Okay. Okay, I'm watching Jessica, Tony, my awesome brother. I'm not leaving him alone. And I'm watching our awesome brother, Rob. Okay, guys, I have good company, okay? Okay, then the lights of the metallic arms and the dome and the lights of the projectors became very strong. Meanwhile, the dome was turning from one side rapidly and the ship was raising like a sort of a helicopter but without the helices. Um, At this moment, the ship was raising. The three arms that was holding the ship raised from one side on the lateral side and the inferior on each side. It was um, straight and roundish, ending on a base like a wide base. It kind of like Transformers, it all became a smaller and it was kind of a it rolled back in. You couldn't see anything. The base was very smooth and shiny, like the three legs didn't even exist. I couldn't distinguish any marks that would show the place where the arms were stored. These people were working well. The ship started to raise on the air until about 500 meters. Then it stopped for some seconds, and at the same time, the luminosity increased. The noise in the air dislocated. The noise of the air started to increase, and the dome turned at an incredible velocity. Meanwhile, the colors were passing through very various tonalities. Even then, they became reddish, live red. At this moment, the machine turned its direction with a brusque movement and a very strong noise, like a sort of a blow. And then I saw a dislocation. I saw that what I called that I said it was the wheel of a boat. He said that he saw that dislocating when he heard the boom. So then they probably got to light velocity or something like that. Then turning it a little bit to the side, the machine live, left in the south of direction at a velocity so quick that in a few seconds I didn't see it anymore. I went back to the tractor. I had left the ship at 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, and then I went back inside the ship at midnight 15. Therefore, I had been inside about 5 hours and a quarter, which was a lot of time. When I wanted to put the tractor back on march, it didn't work. I tried to see if there was any problem in the motor, and I found out that the battery cable had been turned off. This could have been should have been done by somebody because a cable doesn't get out by itself, and I had verified it before I left my house. It should have been some of the men. Therefore, afterwards, the tractor stopped. There should have been a problem on the motor. When they grabbed me to stop me from running, when I was slipping away, they were smart and had thought of everything. They took the cable. So, guys, either way, or this guy has a double personality, or they knew how he was running away by the tractor and they took the cable away. So they had some knowledge of the working of a car. Until now, I never told my adventure. There's only one page to go. Two pages, guys. Until now, I never told this adventure to nobody unless my wife. She told me that I should be careful to never contact with those people. I didn't have the courage to talk about the subject to my father because because when I had told my father about the light on the ceiling, he told me that I was with hallucinations. But later on, I decided to write to some man, João Martins, after I had read that one of his articles on journal, The Cruise, asking to the readers to talk about their reportings of eventual observations of UFOs. If I had money, I would have come earlier, but because I didn't have, I had to wait until he told me that he helped me to pay the journey to go there. Uh, my sir, everyone, I am at your disposition. If you think that I should leave, I will leave tomorrow. If you want that I would stay a while, I will stay. That was what I came here for. And that's how his deposition of Antonio Villas Boas, with all his details, sometimes tiring to the reader, but I thought it was useful to reproduce them on their entirety because you're talking about a case that it demonstrates that it's not an imagination or hallucination or even a farce done by others. In truth, there's a lot of proof in favor of the authenticity of the case, but I will only tell you a few. This deposition made by Villas Boas on the doctor's office of Dr. Olavo Fontes, where for 4 hours Dr. Fontes and journalist João Martins they recorded everything that was said. They tried to slip him some bananas to some details, interrogating him about others, but then they couldn't that he would become in contradiction. He would never, um, I don't know how to say this, but um, kind of when you do like, so you cannot, he didn't hesitated by any means or did any appeal to his imagination. Since the beginning, you could see that he presented no psychopath trace. He talked calmly and freely and didn't have any tick or any signs of instability emotional. Even his reactions to the questions were perfectly normal. He didn't lose the 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 chronology of the story. Um, he he had excitations for times that were normal by any individual that it looks to give an explanation by correct facts. In certain moments, even his doubts about a certain subject would lead us to think that he was lying. He would simply respond, I don't know or I cannot explain. In a letter that he wrote before to João Martins, the reporter, he told that he couldn't tell by writing some details that because he was ashamed. It was on purpose by the part that had relations. It was relating to the sexual relations and about his partner, the alien girl. On this subject, his descriptions weren't spontaneous, showing always a little embarrassment and a certain shame, and it was only due to our insistence that we could discover everything that he knew and he felt. He was even not very freely talking when we talked about the shirt taken by the thieves. Um, the medical exams done by Dr. Fontes and his interrogations showed that after he came back home on the morning of the 16th of October, Antonio was wasted and slept all day. Um, he woke up about 10 in the morning and ate very much with a large appetite. Of course, after making love to an alien girl, who wouldn't be with the munchies? On the next night, he didn't sleep at all, and then the next night again, he didn't. He dreamt about the facts that happened, and he was afraid that they would happen again. Um, he would wake up sometimes screaming and very afraid. He couldn't ever again concentrate on working on the course by correspondence that he was doing. After he started to feel um, not very comfortable and lost his appetite. He had, of course, after eating a lot, I don't know, I'm joking, guys. He had pains all over his body and strong headaches. This could be the effects of being inside the ship, or maybe the corresponding radiations to the ship. It's almost finishing, guys. After he started to feel on his eyes a pain like it was a strong burning. 2 days after the headaches gone away, the eyes started to cry, even though his conjunctivitis wasn't suggested. On the third night, he started to fall asleep, but by then he had frequent attacks of very strong sleepiness that lasted for a month. During all that month, he continued to feel his eyes a feeling of burning and crying by himself without any reason. On the eighth day, he got he got hurt on his forearm when he was working. On his wound that that had dropped some blood. On the next day, he noticed that there was a small infection and he was itchy. 4 to 10 days later, he started having similar wounds on his arms. They would appear suddenly. They had in the middle a sort of a dark with some liquid. All of this accompanied by the same itchiness that lasted about 20 days. The wounds were reddish, so he was allergic to whatever he was contacted with. This is probably some sort of radiation or intolerance of his skin. The wounds were reddish and around, reddish around, and until now, he still has some scars. On the 10th day, on the 15th day, he had two yellow spots on each side of his nose appearing, then they disappeared. With the exam done by Dr. Fontes, we noticed that these two yellowish spots, one on each side of his chin and one on on the sides of a small coin, and one of them bigger. The details of the exam were quite extensive, one page, but this is just a summary. The exam to the nervous system indicates good capacity of orientation in time, feelings of affections inside the normal limits, um, the spontaneous attention or provoked was normal. The tests to the perception or association of ideas and capacity of mental not mental break, of mental thinking demonstrate that his mechanism of his mental brain is working well. Excellent visual memory, complete absence of any mental unequilibrium, external or internal. Therefore, we have an extraordinary case, maybe almost. Oh, look at the music, guys. Washington, D.C. was a state. And therefore, this is an extraordinary case. Maybe um, maybe this guy's was the attempt of interspecies, interraces, humans and aliens being taken by these extraterrestrials, and to the exception of the case that follows, that has less documentation, is the only attempt that we know. Until now, there can exist. Oh, I'm shivering with this music, guys. Do not give in to the demons here. Do not give in to the demons here, guys. I want to dance. Brother Rob, we love him. We love Brother Rob. Rob, wait! I still haven't had my port wine, Rob. Why are you already drinking beer? You have to wait for me, Rob. Watch my video, Rob, tomorrow. Don't drink so quickly, and we can have a longer night. Awesome, brother. Love you, Rob. Stay the same. I'm joking, brother. I love you just the way you are. Everybody, stay the way you are. I love you all the way you are. Okay, there could exist others, but certainly the victim preferred to shut up, which is comprehensible. What would you guys do, my people? Love you, bless you, have an awesome night. This video has a red dot on the top left of the screen, and it's adult parental advisory. Warning, okay? Have a blessed night. Love you very much, my people.